Hey everyone, I'm Aaron. They call me Eenie. That's my identical twin brother Adam. They call him Meanie. Why are we doing that? You're at a baseball brouhaha. We got baseball trivia. You're gonna go Eenie, Meenie, Miny, Mo. If your knowledge is better than us, then you don't need any of that. You just pick the right one. So thanks for joining us today. We're having a cup of coffee and we're enjoying some baseball trivia today. As we go along, please comment your answer below and any questions that you want us to explore. Um, we love answering your questions and putting together trivia that's related to topics that you care about. So drop those in the comments below, Twitter down in the description, all that jazz. Adam, let's dive into today's trivia.
Let's get after it with some MVPs. So, our question today, which MVP winner had the highest batting average? And this is brought to us from the Pirates and MLB. Dick Groat just passed a couple days ago. And we're remembering and inspired by Dick Groat, who won an MVP, which we're going to learn a little bit more about. But here we go. Here's our question with our answer choices. We've got who had the highest batting average in their MVP year. We have Barry Bonds, George Brett, Rod Carew, and Ichiro Suzuki. Sporting my Ichiro shirt, by the way, here.
Nice. Yeah, I got my Mariners. No Ichiro, but I got Mariners. I went Ichiro on this one. I was thinking he in his MVP year, he won AL Rookie of the Year in 2001 and MVP, and I thought he hit 372 doing it. I know he hit 372 in 1 year. Hopefully that it was that year. So I went Ichiro here.
And I went George Brett on this one. I didn't think Ichiro because he didn't like get the most hits ever in that year.
Yeah.
Um, and George Brett, he for a time he was a hit machine
Mm-hmm.
and hit a lot, hit often. So I went George Brett on this one. Let's go to the notes here and see what we got. We are George Brett, 1980, hit 390.
Adam's crushing right now.
I'm
Yeah,
crushing right now. I've got a good streak going.
yeah. Rod Carew went 388 in 1977, just a couple years prior. Bonds went 370 in 2002, and Ichiro 350 in 2001.
Such a disappointment.
Such
350.
350. The number we're going to talk about Dick, but the number of guys who hit under 300 won MVP is like anyway.
We've got another segment, I guess, coming your way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're moving on next. We're talking about Ted Williams. And in 1941, Ted Williams hit 406. That is very high, as you might know, which should have been just like MVP check. But he finished that year second behind Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, so originally I was gonna pick Ted Williams as my answer. Here, obviously, he didn't appear on the list, and I was originally thinking that was because the MVP didn't start until after like maybe the 50s or something like that. The MVP as we know it today. That's actually not true. There was MVP voting. He finished in 1941 second behind Joe DiMaggio. Now, Joe DiMaggio was a great player, and he had a great year. He had 357, had a great year. But he hit 50 points, 49 points lower than Ted Williams in 1941. Williams had more runs scored, more home runs. Perhaps it was because Joe D had 5 more RBI. Maybe that's what put him over the top. He did have
8 more hits.
He had 8 more hits, but the reason why he had 8 more hits is because Ted Williams walked 147 times that year compared to Joe's 76, so half of it. Ted's on base percentage in a Major League Baseball season was 553. They didn't really do the whole OPS thing and whatnot, but it was over 200 points higher for Ted Williams than Joe D. Feels like the eye test, even at that, should have done it, but it didn't. So that's why we have no Ted Williams on our list here, is because Joe DiMaggio won it in 1941.
year for Ted Williams. Well, now we're on to Dick Groat, who recently passed away. He was a solid player, won an MVP. He was played for 14 years, 8 times All-Star, 36.8 career WAR.
Yeah, and obviously war wasn't a thing back then. They didn't track war back then. But just so you know, for context, that puts him in the company of players like Kyle Seager, Jay Bell, Jose Reyes. He had a 286 career batting average, 39 career home runs. Hold, folks. Career 696 OPS and an OPS plus of 89. So he was below average, a below average hitter in his career. But he still won an MVP. We're going to talk about that.
And that MVP happened in 1960. And we're going to talk about the voting because it was a little interesting, especially in the NL. But the American League field was a little bit soft, but pretty straightforward. There were only 4 vote getters who had a WAR above 5. And Vic Wirtz got some votes with a 0.7 WAR, barely above a replacement player level.
Yeah, exactly. So, as Adam said, the NL was very nutty in the voting. So Dick Groat won. He had a good year. He has 6.1 WAR. He led the NL in batting at 325. I'm pretty sure this is what won him the award. Combined with he had a strong defensive WAR as well. But he hit 2 home runs and had a 766 OPS. The NL had 7 vote getters that had a higher WAR. Again, remember, folks, in 1960, we didn't have people calculating WAR, but most of this is like some of the WAR you can see just by watching the players, especially when guys like Willie Mays had 3.5 more WAR than Dick Groat. It feels like you couldn't see that. You couldn't see 3.5 more WAR and almost 200 more OPS. Hank Aaron was in that list with an 8 WAR. Ernie Banks 7.9. Eddie Matthews 7.3. Frank Robinson 6.2. Big time Hall of Fame names in that list who all finished with a higher WAR than Dick Groat. But hey, congratulations to Dick Groat on winning MVP.
Yeah, and a great time for us to remember him and his career.
Absolutely.
You know what time it is. It's story time, folks. And today we're diving into awards that we have won. For me, I didn't win many.
Likewise.
The two that stand out to me is I believe my senior year, I was like named first team all county, which we played in a small county. So it's not much of an accomplishment. But the like physical award that I remember the most came from my 5th grade year, where I was named Mr. Consistent, most consistent player. And why was that? Because I got 28 hits that year. 27 of them were singles.
Adam crushing the slug right there. Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I had a award from back in that time, and it's probably in a trunk in my garage. I didn't pull it out. For this one. So, the ones that I remember winning were I remember getting selected to the All-Star game at a tournament in Whitefish, Montana over the Summer Legion. I think I got a sportsmanship medal in the semifinal game our senior year. And then I had all league selections, I believe, my sophomore, junior, and senior years. I could be wrong about that, but somewhere in that. I remember my freshman year, Pat from Tico Oakdale won the third base award. And I was like, why didn't I win it? Because I had a higher batting average. And Stu was like, it's not just about your batting average, dude. But we I think we only were league champs maybe once, maybe twice. But I think only once. We never won district championship, and we didn't win a state championship. So we had a good team, but We were devoid of a lot of awards there.
We got second in state though. That's
We did.
a big
That's a big
accomplishment.
deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So it's a big deal. So all right. All right. Well, special thanks today to Baseball Reference, the Pirates, and MLB. If you have a burning question, comment below or find us on Twitter and tweet at us there. We love hearing from you. And we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.